Footy and Frothies back again at Barney and Daggy, just the two of us this week. Plodding along as we do in virtual land this time round. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good buddy, and yourself?
Well, thank you. Cheeky beer on the way home, and we're good to go to talk about this stuff. So we're back to get stuck into the trial games. We're not going to do our traditional, and for those that have been along for the ride for the last few years, we will generally go in depth and look at stats and all sorts of good stuff from each and every game and drag it out for as long as we can. But in this case, we're going to just touch on what we've seen from the trials over the weekend and what might have changed in our opinion since our infamous 5-hour preview show, which has gone all over YouTube, and we've got plenty of flack for in some cases. But we're going to talk about some of those comments too, which is interesting. But in this case, we're just going to see, look at it as a top-up. We're going to try and not take it too seriously, because I think if there's one thing we've learned from the last 2 years, it's trials tend to mean sweet fuck all. But we can come up with what we can. What do you make of having footy back and getting through the weekend and getting to hear that famous, Fox League theme and all the rest of it?
Yeah, obviously very enjoyable to see the footy back on the telly. A couple of very good games and a couple that were a bit below par, but you expect that when half the teams are trotting out 70% of youngsters into a first grade sort of forum. There was a couple of real good standouts from some young fellas, and a couple of these teams that ran out younger squads got tested and seemed to hang on pretty well for some young fellas, like especially the Storm game. They defended extremely well for long periods of time, which is obviously something you want to see out of your young guys. And you could probably throw the Titans in there as well, who defended extremely well with basically without a first grader in sight. So
it's interesting with some of the young teams, which side of the narrative people want to take. Like with the Titans, some people were critical, whereas realistically they held on against a close to full strength Dolphins team for a fair chunk.
Absolutely.
Similar with, actually, a few of the games are similar. So whereas you saw the next day, including even the Tigers, who for a good 50 minutes played their under-18s. People were very critical of, the fact they only won by 2, but you're going through, you've got Howard Matt kids doing their best against grown-ups. So all through the weekend, I think some people, it's just interesting which side of the narrative people fell on. As we get through each one, I guess we'll mention individuals. Anything you really caught your eye that you want to start with, or should I just run through very quickly some news?
Oh, well, probably the strongest game of the weekend was the Indigenous game, the All Stars match, and I thought there was some high quality footy in there mixed with a bit of they did, both teams lost their way a little bit at different times, but that was probably the closest game we saw to first grade. I think we'll probably just pick out some players more so as we go through the games rather than anything to begin with. So
yeah, I agree. We're just like I said, put a bit of a cherry on top of our thoughts last week, and in a couple of cases, put our hand up and say maybe it's not as bad as we might have thought, or vice versa. Very quickly, we generally get stuck in the news at the start. I don't want to spend a heap of time on it, but Jared Weir-Hargreaves announced that he'll be heading to Super League at the end of this year. 2013, 18, 19 Premier from the Chooks. Held on for, he got the extra year extension and is going to finish, obviously. But I guess when you talk about players that have done it all, he's done it, represented his country, won World Cups, won 3 premierships, as I said. One of the real, genuine last war horses, I suppose.
Yeah, been at the forefront in one of the toughest positions in the comp for quite a long time. Very polarizing figure, obviously. Plenty of people out there that hate him and want to see the back of him as quick as possible. And, there's probably just as many that love him as much as people hate him. So I'm a bit either way. Realistically, he's done some funny things on the field and lent himself towards looking a bit silly sometimes. But when at his absolute best, fantastic front row, close to one of the best that I've seen. Just brings that aggression and power through the middle of the field, and it's so hard to stop when he's on a roll.
Yeah, just ability to light up that first 10 or 15 minutes and set the tone in some of those finals matches and big Chooks games. I always liked watching him play, but I'm not going to be negative about him at all because he understands what all these people are like off the field, so that's fine. I'm sure as we get closer to the season's end, we'll do him better justice. I think, put it that way.
Absolutely. As we get closer to the actual retirement date, but so it's part of that position. You have to be that aggressive enforcer type when you're in that role. So, that sort of comes with the territory.
Just very quickly, Toff Sipley copped 3 weeks for his crusher tackle on Dom Young. So for those interested, and we gave him a brief mention in Supercoach previews. Obviously, he's not going to be starting the year. He's missing out on the Vegas trip. Zion Mayu is going to contest his send-off, so we'll see what happens there. Injury-wise, Mapapalangi, Declan Casey, young Arthur, just his name, Matt Arthur, and Zach Wolford all got knocked out for the course of the weekend. So thoughts with all of them, especially it was very sad actually with Mapapalangi, who's someone both of us have wrapped at times and has had a rough run and probably was in a bit of a box seat there to get a decent crack at this year. And I assume hopefully it's not too much of a setback, but he'll miss this week and we'll see what happens come round 1. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty scary knockout, that one. First tackle of the game, not what you want to see, obviously. But I think, we're pretty much, the game's doing pretty much everything they can at the moment for these head knocks and concussions. And it's going to become more and more prevalent as the years go by.
Yeah. And obviously, Dom Young potentially now looking at neck surgery. It wasn't potentially some sort of minor fracture in there. So we wait and see on what exactly happens with him. He looked fantastic till that happened too as well. He was very exciting in that game. We may as well. Oh, and just quickly, word out today, Jaden Brayley in some doubt for round 1. For those looking, probably from a Supercoach point of view, Phoenix Crossland, will do the job more than serviceably as he did again on the weekend. And Chance in a little bit of doubt. I see they've named Tua Kapiki this week, and Roger's going to stay at centre. A little bit same as Titans, who have named Keeney at fullback and AJ at centre. So some young blood on the way, I suppose. Hopefully they're all up and going as soon as possible.
Both looked pretty good in the short stints that we've seen them come into their respective sides. So
definitely. Now, Barn, we may as well get our plugs out of the way here. Our friends at the Supercoach Hub and Supercoach Hub, isn't it?
That's them, yeah.
Are going to run a charity competition. If any Supercoach is interested, do you want to talk us through that?
Yeah, so we have had a few guys ask us about running a cash comp, and this is probably one of the better ones, realistically. I know we got Supercoach Hub combining with Lifeline, so a $50 buy-in will get you $25 going directly to the prize pool, and the other $25 is going to go directly to Lifeline. So one of the best charities around. I myself I've used the Lifeline back in the day. It's a fantastic thing for anyone that's in that position that feels, they just need someone to speak to, and they're in that dark place. So I can't think of a better charity to join up with, and I'll be jumping into this one, I think, at some point in the next week or two. There's all the links are in our socials, and we've put up a direct link coming from Footy and Frothies to buy into this competition. And
$50 buy-in?
$50 buy-in,
$50
correct,
buy-in,
yes.
And a chunk will go to Lifeline, the rest will go in the prize pool.
Yeah, 50-50. So 25 straight to the prize pool and 25 straight to Lifeline. So hopefully if we can get plenty of numbers in there. I know a lot of the other Supercoach pod creators and content creators around Supercoach land have also been going to get in there, and hopefully we get a whole heap of numbers into this competition.
And the way you can find it is go to our Facebook page. I'll also put it on our threads. There's a link that will go through us, and then they know they've come from Footy and Frothies, and you can sign up that way, join the group, and go from there. Also, quickly plug your good showing last week on said podcast. You cameoed on a trial preview show. How'd you go there?
Yeah, it's been about an hour and 20 minutes, I think it was, with Munster Mash. And we went down and tried to break down pretty much every game that we just went through this weekend and pick out some the Supercoach relevant players, more so than anything else. I think we hit pretty much everyone this
You
week.
did
Realistically,
pretty well.
there was one or two that might have slipped under the guard. Will Price had a pretty nice showing for the Knights, and probably
What'd you make of Cole Flanagan?
Wasn't a great deal for mine to say that he'd be in my Supercoach side. Yourself?
Yeah, let me out. Just your interest beforehand, and here we are. I feel like he's whatever it was. The base is a little bit inflated from his time spent at hooker last year. So I think the bigger issue is there's bigger concerns around the team he's playing for more than anything.
Yeah, we'll obviously get to them. They had a bit of a bright start for 15 or 20 minutes, but really fell away the back end.
Should we get into it? Anything else to talk about from the
absolutely.
weekend? What do you make of the rule changes? Seemed largely unintrusive. There wasn't a great deal. I think there was 1 or 2 penalties for people standing in and around the ruck. There was
nothing really seemed to make much of a
actually
difference.
There was a disallowed try for someone standing in the ruck in one of the games.
Yes, it was. I think it was this first game. It was
a
Canterbury bloke that was in and around the ruck there and got in the way, but. I think it was dropped over the line as well at the same time. So I'm pretty sure it wasn't going to be a try either way. But seemed to be a few extra short dropouts.
Yeah. And a couple did go in the full. One. A couple were very good. Jack Hastings put up a couple of very nice ones. There was a couple of those that executed well. I don't
remember seeing any long dropouts, put it that way. So
no. Very interesting how that pans out. It's very much a trend-driven sport. As soon as someone starts getting success off long dropouts again, everyone will go back to it. So,
of course, if you're in a defensive mode when you're getting towards the back end of a game, I don't see them going short, obviously. But as there doesn't seem to be a huge consequence because blokes don't mind defending on their line. I think during the majority of the game, you probably are going to see them go short more often than not.
And the last plug I'll get in is you'd put up a tip for the Friday night game, which was both fullbacks to score. Unfortunately, Taff got pretty close a couple of times, and then came off. But what we're going to try and do is do our former disaster class through the Show Us Your Tips page. So our bets every weekend will be through the Show Us Your Tips YouTube page, and you can find that there. If you're a racing fan, subscribe and get the Beaver and I's thoughts on every weekend's racing, including the Blue Diamond meeting this weekend. But let's get stuck into the first trial game and a bit of feedback quickly as well. I don't know if it's time to do it now or later, but I'm just going to read out some of the comments from the Bulldogs clip from our season preview. First of all, Shinmeister said, the Bulldogs' biggest downfall is Burton. At Penrith, he was a support player only, finish off the work of brilliant players around him. The Bulldogs brought him in to be the main man. He's not a main man. All he has is a big boot, and that's it, a big boot. He should be essentially saying he should be an NFL punter. When he's in the middle of the park, he's going nowhere. Tim Duncan, guys thought you'd have Sherry in the side because he's starting there. They have a few big rigs who will surprise people, I agree. And Mr. Luke Sports, I thought this was fair commentary too. Generally don't understand the narrative that the Tigers are after 2 spoons are right on track and a new coach and new combos, but Bulldogs aren't. Regardless of how the season pans out, Tigers haven't signed anyone. They've got a rookie coach, and Dogs have signed one of the best backs in the game, which is true, and have a lot of upgrades on forwards, a lot of which were injured last year in playing New South Wales Cup. How can they be in a worse spot? Which I think is absolute fair commentary on what we said. And Bulldog Dynasty, good man, just said, this is amateur hour. I turned off after 3 minutes. Fair. So, thoughts on any of that, having seen them in action? We'll get into it. But the one thing I did say in our preview is that I hope they've got some big bodies that we don't know yet lined up. And I think they've found a few. So, I think it's a tick.
Definitely looked that way. Commentary. Bronson Zeri, I think, still on trial. To be honest, I know he's named in the first trial of the year, but that's generally they normally
name
the blokes that they're not sure about in the first trial.
Yeah, exactly.
Realistically, and the fact that he's been named again and Kiraz is yet to be seen really makes me think that he's still on. He's still auditioning for a spot more so than being locked into that squad. They did look a fair bit sharper and a lot more organised in the halves when you had Sexton and who was the other half that was running around? Hutchinson in the middle of the field. They definitely looked a lot more organised in the middle of the field.
Very quickly, I just want to make point of just to clean up the feedback. Any thoughts on what we said about the Tigers versus what we said about the Bulldogs?
Yeah. No, I was going to get to that. This was more around the comments of Burton, which I can understand.
Yes.
If they do go the way of having Hutchinson and Sexton as their starting halves, I could see a world where Burton does end up back in the centres, or even maybe as a lightweight 13 or pushed into that 14 position. But which is sort of I can agree with parts of that. I think we were more trying to say that we'd more like to see what the Tigers have done off the field this off season, the way that they've cleared out everything underneath and basically told, Benji's been given the green light that this is yours for the next year and a half, and there's not going to be any outside voices or any other, anyone else interfering with the direction that you're going to be pushing this club. Where we've been a little bit confused with the way that the players sort of roll in and out of this Bulldogs squad for the last couple of years. Not to say that they haven't improved on their squad this year from last year, but I think that was more the way we were trying to go. We probably went a little bit over the top with what we were saying around.
No, but 100%.
Compound the comparisons.
I see where the Tigers are heading, and at the start of the year, without seeing exposed form, I didn't understand how the signing of 5 utilities was going to help where they are. That said, lots of smarter minds than me at the Bulldogs apparently, so I think you've got to take this game as a big tick. Do you want to have a crack at your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, so we had 5 tries to 2 out of 2 conversions for the Dogs, and 2 out of 2 for the Melbourne Storm side. It was 10-12 at half time. The Melbourne Storm managed to hang on for that entire first half, even being like Dogs just constantly threatening the defence. Had the majority of the ball as well for big parts of this game. And I thought the Storm did extremely well to be within arm's length at halftime, to be honest. I thought the Dogs probably could have and should have put another 2 tries on before halftime. Comes with inexperience, obviously, and they're still working out those combinations in the middle of the field. I did really like the look of Hutchinson in there early. He really got them directed in the right direction, especially his back rowers. Reid had his front rowers really coming through the middle as well, and suddenly Hughes looked every bit of the hype that we've heard all through the Supercoach chat recently, and I dare say he's now going to be well over 50-60% ownership in the Supercoach sphere. James Salmon looked extremely good at lock, floating around the field, injected himself in at particularly good times as well. His timings of when to get involved seemed extremely good. The outside backs took a bit of pressure off the forwards too, which is something we've been asked for. Jarrell Skelton got in there, did plenty of work. Wilson did a little bit. Zeri was getting involved as well. So I think that also added to, some of these young forwards that we saw come through making a bit of a difference. They also got some help from their outside backs. So I thought they looked a lot faster and a lot more organised in the middle of the field than what they did at any time last year. So some positive signs there for the Bulldogs. Melbourne Storm realistically had a team of young fellas and reserve graders. There wasn't a lot of their top grade talent there. Pappenhausen tried hard and was busy early, but didn't really have a huge impact on the game until obviously the nice little kickoff here, nice little kick at the back end of the game for him to score under the posts. But the Storm didn't really look threatening ball in hand for the majority of the match, I thought. Pezzett tried hard, but didn't seem to be able to provide a great deal.
He tried hard. Just quickly on the Storm, the only thing I take at this game for the Storm is that you just put ticks against the ones you wanted to see. Pappy got through it, scored a great try, looked dangerous, looked quick enough, had no issues with the contact. It was, happy days. Happy days. Ryan Pappenhausen's back, I hope, and that's good. It was good to see Remus Smith back as well, and Eremaya, who had injuries for large chunks of last year as well. And Jeremiah
They
missed a
both
lot of
did get turned around a couple of times though in defence, which was a bit concerning.
Yeah, but they've got Warbrick to come back, and they've got
Yes.
a couple of others, so not too
Mhm.
potentially even Longer up their sleeve. And I thought the Fords as best they could got through their work. So in terms of what you take out of it for the second string Melbourne team, you say, okay, it was all fair enough. I really liked what I saw from the Bulldogs. I'm going to give them a wrap. I thought one of the most interesting things of the week was seeing how some of those players have picked up, fit into it. It looks like, and looking off the teams this week, Blake Wilson potentially in a box seat to be that winger. Fox will get to an Indigenous game. But I loved Blake Taff at fullback. I love that sweep play. They look dangerous as hell on that right-hand edge sweep play every time they went to it. And they were held up a couple of times, and all I thought was, if you throw Steve Crichton into that play, all of a sudden it's a very interesting play. And potentially a kick out on the other side as well gives you that double edge going the other way. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Blake Taff can do for the year. If he gets given a genuine crack at that fullback spot. You've mentioned Hutchinson, and to the commentary earlier about Burton, both you and I have been very vocal about this since he's been there, that they could do much worse and make him a strike centre and have Hutchinson and Sexton as the halves. Toby Sexton, I don't know if that was an audition for 14. I assume it was, but he came on and focused particularly on his running game, which I assume means he's going to be playing off a bench for a little bit, and maybe I'm overreading, but he was fantastic. Like, as good a player as
considering his running game's been one of his least, least used aspects.
Well, he doesn't have a bad centre foot either.
He's got some good acceleration. Yeah, those first 5 or 6 steps, very quick, and some nice footwork as well at the line.
Sam Hughes, and great pickup potentially now is Famua Silly, who got through a mountain of work. I wouldn't be shocked if they're the starting front row. You got Max King, I guess, floating in and around as well, but not a bad rotation out. There's finally some size they've needed, and as you said, tick the box, got to try. Sam Hughes will be 60% ownership in the first round, and probably rightfully so. Agree with what you said about young
is it Hayward? Bailey Hayward came on and played the second half at hooker. Looks every bit a part of, as a backup hooker. So they've now got a bit of depth in that hooking position too, if anything happens, or if they do want to roll out a 20-minute sub in the middle there. But his service was fantastic, and he got out there and caused a few problems running around as well. So
I'm actually quite interested to see them this week. And the other one we haven't mentioned, which, as I said, we're not going to spend hours on each game, but particularly good return from Sherry. Looked fast, looked strong, and had a try involvement and a try. So up and going, and he's knocking it all down to be that other centre.
Correct.
For those that are listening early on this year and have listened to sport, we have a Pop Plant of the Week award every week. We have someone that we give to an award, for better or worse, that their job on the weekend may have been done more serviceably by a pot plant. I think you'll go a long way this year to see a better description of what we look for in a Pot Plant of the Year award than Liam Knight. Thoughts, David?
Yeah, well, everything he touched seemed to turn to dirt there for a good 10 or 15 minutes. I think he was trying too hard, to be honest. I think he was really trying to set himself out to impress.
That's what it was.
Looking
It was
for
absolutely
offloads
what
when
it
he
was.
didn't need to, and just trying to, be that tad too aggressive when he was held in a good tackle, and it just proceeded to commit error after error.
Yeah, it absolutely was trying too hard, but rough night out, and would be shocked if he's in and around the 17 again come round 1, but it's a long way to go. Very quickly, Supercoach scores of note. Sherry 62, Skelton 61. Where's Sam Hughes? Got 36, but was on minimum minutes. And for the Storm, Pappenhausen got 50-odd. Eremmeyer 46. Tristan Powell 40. But obviously plenty of shared time going on there. Anything else from that game? as we said, the Friday night game was the Indigenous versus the Maori side, 22-14. You'd have been very happy with what you saw from the Sharks halves.
Yeah, combined quite well and did what we were talking about. Hines seemed to take a back seat for a big part of this game. He obviously saw that Trindle was on pretty early and decided to, provide more of a decoy sort of play where he'd go 3/4 of the way into the line and then make sure the ball got to Trindle pretty quickly afterwards once he's, attracted a bit of attention from the defence. But yeah, some very good signs out of Trindle. Some really nice short kicks leading to tries, a couple of pretty good runs, and he looked like he may have just sharpened up his defensive fraction as well. So
Yeah, no, I thought he was great. And Nico almost consciously took a back seat at times, I thought. He was happy to be out the back and let that all flow. Look at these games, we know what we get. What do we really take out of them? I suppose on paper, the Indigenous side had that touch more class. They got the job done. Is there any individuals that caught your eye? Just again in terms of this stuff, everyone to me sort of just ticked their box, didn't they?
Josh Adokar looked as big and as strong as I've ever
He
seen
looked
him.
big actually, and he's always up.
Yeah.
And he always up for this game. And it's something we should keep in mind that backing him for a double in Indigenous game is probably not a bad way if you want to have a little wager. But
probably not a bad way to
looked,
invest your money.
I thought the two from that point of view, he looked big, and I thought Cheese looked the fittest I've seen him in a long time for the Maori side, and played
seemed to
very
struggle
direct.
to get into the game a little bit.
Well,
but
he just defaulted to running, and that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing for the Roosters if they stick to that.
Yeah, Josh Adokar looked as physical as I've ever seen. So there'll be a few wingers out there questioning, and he didn't look like he lost any pace either. So there'll be a few blokes with some things running through their head when they're going to be lining up against Josh Adokar during this season. I thought it was a pretty good forward battle. Most of the forwards, I think, did their job. I don't think there was anyone really that stood out from either side in the forward packs that didn't have a great game.
I thought Shaq
They were
Mitchell
all
was
pretty
actually
good.
one of the better forwards on the field. He was quite impactful.
Yeah, and the likes of like Josh Kerr, who's sort of been in and out of the team for quite a while. I thought he had a pretty good performance there as well.
And Willison, I reckon, the only other worth noting, and it probably, again, a little bit through a super coach spectrum, but if he's looking at a starting role, a big unit, got a try, but looked very, very impressive at times.
Yeah, 100%. And Joseph Tarpanay just did what we expect out of him week in and week out. Hunt had a decent impact, only played 20 odd minutes, but I thought he had a couple of really nice carries there as a Shark supporter. As did Leo Thompson, probably did pretty well as well, I thought. Some really good, tough carries. But didn't have a lot of massive standouts for the Maori side, to be honest.
Now, the two I mentioned, the two front rows that I thought, and Cheese, like I said, Cheese, you're a bit critical of his service, but I thought he got through. He looked, like I said, looked as fit as I've seen him, and got through his work from a point of view. I think he's going to be much more of a running based hooker this year than what we saw last year. You go back to what he was doing. Yeah, forever. So
and Hughes under pressure, while he didn't have the best game in the world, he tried his absolute backside out, provided a couple of opportunities, but the Indigenous side just went out of their way to pressure Jerome Hughes as much as I think anyone's got to him for a while, to be honest.
And he had no assistance. Jesse Arthurs didn't have a great game. There was people, he didn't have a lot of help. Cody Nicarima didn't have a particularly outstanding game either, really. So
you're correct there. But yeah, Willison's the one that really the big one, big talking point. I think, especially leading in towards Supercoach. If he gets himself a good 40 or 50 minutes in that Broncos setup, he's definitely his ownership will go through the roof as well.
And just for the record, let's have a look at this. Latrell got 47, did have a nice try assist, did stand Latrell stuff. Adokar 69, Nico still got 60, Shaq Mitchell 49. Kieran Mosley actually 53, but did a good job, Kieran Mosley, for an unsung player. Was good. Not a great deal to write out. Willison 63 and Where's he gone? Where's Darpany? He just disappeared.
Would have been one of your starting props.
He's gone
But
now. Oh, he got 91 Tarpane. So, yeah, Supercoach score's worth mentioning.
yeah, Mosey was very good. He picked his times extremely well, and especially down in that sort of attacking 20 or 30 metres out from the opposition's line, caused quite a few problems for the defence. So.
Anything else from this game? I know we haven't, as I said, we're not really doing our traditional analysis, but
yeah,
caught your eye?
In 2 weeks' time, guys, we'll get back to the,
To the
20,
actual
30-minute chat about
proper
every
stuff
single
we do.
game and pull it apart and talk about all the angles and the missed tackles and all the rest of that. But yeah, I think we're just going to
Plow through now.
we're basically talking about it the way it is. The trial matches, it's all a bit up in the air. You'll see a couple of good performances here and there, but it's nowhere near a first-grade hit out. So
Newcastle 44, Sharks 18. I know it's a hot day, but we were looking for the Sharks to reduce some of their potential error rate, and this was an error-ridden game. But I will say, to kick this off, I thought Sharks looked fine. When they had their full-strength team in the field, I thought they were pretty good for that first 25 minutes. So, yeah, there's no issues there. They were going through the motions they need to go through, as did the Knights. And once we got into a few chopping and changings, and the Knights ascended. But I think if you're a fan of either team, you just go, okay, cool.
yeah, they obviously had to do a lot more defence than they would have hoped for, the Sharks. Probably more than competitive
Self-inflicted
in the first.
for a lot of that.
Most of it was self-inflicted. There was a period there for about 20 minutes where they Hazelton got 10 in the bin, and then they dropped the ball pretty much every time they touched it. So
Yeah,
good luck winning footy games doing that. Thought they're probably the better team for the first 15 or 20 minutes, and then
yeah, I agree with that.
Faded away. Whether that was through the way that the Knights really enjoyed seeing Cogger come in, and I thought he was quite dominant when he got on the field, and he seemed like the guy that was telling everyone where they needed to be and what they were doing. Realistically, out of the three guys that are vying for those two positions, I thought Gamble probably had the least impact on the game. While he still put in a decent performance, and at the start of this match, I think you probably got a little bit more of an impact just with the ball playing and organisation skills out of
Hastings.
Jack Cogger.
Oh, Cogger, yeah.
And Hastings. So.
Well, Hastings had a couple of nice moments. He had the kick across field for the Dylan Lucas try, and you know what you get. He's the organizer. His job is not to be the flair in the team. With Bond coming back, but I think just the way Cogger's ability to straighten everything up, and it sounds really cliched because everyone says, but it's true. To square on defence, and I think he had 3 try assists or something by the time he came on. I know again he's named 14 this week, but I think the time will be coming where the conversation we had that he probably starts 6.
Wouldn't surprise me. That'd be the way I'd be going after watching over the weekend. A couple of guys, Dylan Lucas had a very good impact when he did get on the field. Just that ball running, that laying down that strong line, and was on that left-hand edge as well. So
can find a try. Yeah,
that Fitzgibbon role.
And this week he's named to start. He now interests me if he does get that starting spot over Kai Pearce-Paul. Obviously, we'll see how that pans out come team selection. But just looking at his price, actually. What's he worth?
He's a little bit more.
He's probably in that sort of 500 bracket. Yeah, which he's a little bit more than I want to pay. Who else caught your eye? Sorry, well, I think.
A couple of the young fellas I thought Riley Jones had a pretty good game.
Fletcher Sharp too.
Matt Croker was going really well in the middle of the field, and then sort of had a couple of mistakes, and I think he lost his head there for a little bit, but was putting in a good showing for a big part of this game. Jed Cartwright did a job. Whether that they're going to keep giving him the minutes that he would need to be of super coach interest, or really raise his stocks as an NRL first grader. But I thought he did enough to probably get another chance at it. So we'll see what came from that. And Will Price, a bit slow when he first came on the field, sort of looked a step behind, but by the end of the game looked like one of the more potent attacking players out there. So,
the fullback Fletcher Sharp, he has some nice footwork, has some pace, and had some nice involvements. I thought. I know he's
yes,
got a fair way to go with the people in front of him, but kudos to him.
Find it hard to break into this squad, but yeah, definitely put his best foot forward in this game.
What do you make of the Sharks backs, your Dykes, your Iros, your Stone Streets, your Atkinson? Atkinson was good, actually. And so was Peru. Both those halves.
Largely unimpressive, I thought. To be honest, I thought Iro started well in the first 10 minutes or so, but then really just disappeared off the face of the earth. Dykes tried hard, but was really only sort of involved in that sweep play, and it never really got off the ground at any time during the game. So they sort of bumped into each other and got caught up. I agree with you with Atkinson. He looked like realistically the only guy who was going to provide
he's anyone with creativity on the field, wasn't he?
Sorry?
He looked like the anyone with some Peru had some nice touches, but Atkinson's the only one that looked like he was going to manufacture someone with a chance.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Definitely looked like the guy who was going to create points if there was to be any made. Yeah, Peru tried hard, but again, a lot of handling errors, and he got himself, I think he got into his own head there at one point during the game as well, and really sort of seemed to get down on himself, and then started to try things that he really shouldn't be doing. But it is a trial match, so Beryl looked good off playing hooker. Obviously the backup there now with Blake Brayley there, but I don't think they'd lose massive amounts if they did ever have to inject him into the team. So,
and just a bloke that's got experience and knows his game. Just came across as something like that now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's been playing in there in the reserve grades for a long time, and obviously knew what he was doing. Look, Hazelton and Kafusi were good. Obviously didn't help that Hazelton got 10 minutes in the bin. But I thought those two guys are pushing to try and get themselves a bench spot. So I think they'll be fighting out for that last spot between the two of those. So, they both did quite well. Thought Teague Wilton had a bit of a shocker, I thought, considering some of the performance we've seen out of him during the year. He really seemed to make no impact on this game at all, and it just could cause more problems than he did anything positive. But Jack Williams and Cameron McGuinness just went through their motions and played out their minutes and did what they did. But
again, you just treat this game as probably both teams what you can see from the A grade is fair enough.
Talakai came on and played about 10 minutes at centre, I think, and had a couple of nice runs. But still want to see him in the back row or in the middle.
Putting pressure on Teague.
Different story. But if Iro's going to play like that, then you probably can't do it. So
exactly. 36-22, Roosters over the Seagulls was up next. And 8,000 there at Gosford. There's good crowd through most of the weekend, actually, which is good.
Yep.
Now, what did you take? Very interesting, actually. And I know they're all getting on a plane, so I understand it in hindsight, thinking about it. But the Roosters went out of the way to play a lot of their first grade. Sam Walker nearly played the whole game. Teddy had a good half and then sort of Manu. Billy Smith nearly played the whole game. They gave him a proper blowout. Won by 14. Flattering. What you want to see? What do you take of this?
Yeah, I think it was probably closer than I know, it was only 14 at the end, but I think the Sea Eagles were probably in this game right up to their eyeballs for big parts of it.
So just quickly for a sense of completion, I better just mention the top Supercoach scorers from Knights and Sharks. There's not a great deal. Hastings got 48. Tom Jenkins, 44. He'll be on a lot of people's radars, even though he's $500,000. Dylan Lucas, 69. Jack Colger, 50. Armstrong, 109. Colhoun at 50. Beryl, 53, you mentioned. And not a great deal going on for the Sharks. While doing it, for the Roosters, a bright and breezy 55 from Teddy, which pleases me. Tupou, 78, looked fantastic. Dom Young, 58 till he got injured. Walker, 66. Tupanua, 54. And not a great deal for Manly. Wakeham, 40. Sipley, 57. Good outing for him, barring his suspension, obviously.
Minus a 3-week suspension.
Yeah.
I really would have hoped that the Roosters had been a little bit more dominant through the middle of the field,
It
to be
felt that
honest,
way,
in this
yeah.
game. It felt like they got matched for a big part of the game in the middle of the field, which I did not expect at all. I thought that they'd be well in front at halftime and kick on even more. But that first 20 minutes, half an hour, Manly really came out with a point to prove and kept the game pretty tight. The Roosters sort of kicked away 10 minutes either side of half time, and that's probably got a lot to do with the conditioning of the and the experience of the guys that have been playing first grade for a long time up against half a side of fellas that haven't been doing the same thing. No real standouts, as you said, apart from Teddy had an extremely good game. I thought Walker had some really nice touches.
Mm-hmm.
Terrell May was probably the best forward on the ground.
Knocking it out.
Did get into his work.
Absolutely knocking the door down now.
Yeah, was absolutely fantastic. But
and
nobody
Sia
else
Wong
really
late.
sort of
Sia Wong
stamped
was,
there. Sorry?
Sia Wong, when he got on, was good.
Yeah, probably could have done with a few more minutes, but I think they already know what they're getting out of him. So, but Statili and the likes of Crichton and Statili they didn't play poorly. They didn't really stamp themselves into, saying that this is our position. The only probably benefit for those guys is that the two Butcher boys really can play in the middle.
Mm.
So it probably, does free up an extra spot on an edge if they do decide to use, say, Egan or Nat through the middle of the field rather than on an edge. So the depth's incredible at the Roosters, but how those combinations come through is going to be interesting to see.
I feel like
see it now until
I feel like Robbo likes Satili, and now it's been 3, 4, 5 years in. He trusts it. Like, obviously, he's got a couple, 2 ACLs, or he had the ACL last year, but he's injured.
ACL, yeah. I think it was a shoulder or something.
The fact he got did what he does with the try.
Yeah.
Beat someone. You know what you get with Satili. When I talk about angular back rowers, he's the prototype for it. It's, he did, like, that was classic Tupanua. Has an offload, all that sort of stuff. I thought I would say he got through enough work to, first game back off 12 months to. I suggest he probably starts.
Yeah.
Over in Vegas, and that's not a bad thing. He's just not your workhorse one. He's half a liability. He's got some sus defense at times, but he's exciting as an attacking option if that's what they're going with. Fair enough. Both halves are good. Yeah, Kiri's running game was good. A couple of breaks and sort of cruised through it. And Sam Walker, as you said, had some nice touches. Looks like he might be moving towards being a little bit more dominant this year, but that's again taking a lot out of the trial game.
He's always been pretty direct, and again, he was at his best here when he was direct into the line and taking players with him. So scored a nice little grubber for himself, score a try. So nobody really else that jumped out at me. Connor Watson's was good on return.
Yes,
looked fit, looked pretty strong.
Well, I suspect he's got
problems.
He's going to have that 14 spot because obviously Hutchins
made for it, really, isn't he?
Yeah, and that's why he came back. And I'd say there's the 3 forward spots on the bench up for grabs.
At a pinch, could play on an edge if he absolutely had to. You know he can play hooker, he can play in the halves, can play centre. Made for that 14 role.
Particularly,
anyone jump out at you from the Manly side?
Particularly in a team, if we go back to Cheese being a 55-minute player, which he probably needs to be, Connor Watson's very, very interesting this year. For Manly, Tuamalo Vega, he had a good game. He was
strong,
impressive,
wasn't he?
Very strong. Some nice touches, some clever stuff. I don't know what it means, but Wakeham didn't have a bad game. But
no, he didn't.
He was there. He was fine. and the two forwards did what they do generally. I can't take a lot else more. The interesting thing was the fact Brad Parker came on and played back row, and he's been named this week. He's not going to Vegas, put it that way. So I assume his card's been marked, and we are going to see him down the road. But just because we're trying to work out who's going to be the other centre, it won't be him.
Doesn't look that way now. No, definitely not. I thought Paseka was pretty good in the middle of the field.
Yeah, both those
seemed
props.
to sort of make a point of being the leader with the ball meters in the middle, and simply went with him. Nathan Brown wasn't bad on return.
He was good last year. He's a good pickup, a great pickup actually.
Runs a nice sort of outline from the middle out towards an edge, which can provide opportunities for anyone that wants to sort of follow him out there. So, I thought he was a decent enough when he got on the field. So,
any clues from those outside backs? Your Paulos, Talaus, they're a bit behind you. A bit behind your Coolers and Garricks, aren't they?
100%. It's going to be Garrick, Cooler,
Turbo,
obviously Tommy,
Saab, and Ray Vega wouldn't be the worst.
There's been big raps on. I think from what I've heard, they do really like Talau in there as well. But then you've got Saab on that edge, so I don't think Vega will be getting that edge spot when you you throw Saab back in there as well. So there's really realistically only one position there, and I think it's probably between Paulo and Talau at the moment.
Pick your poison, eh? I've watched Tommy for enough years now. That's it. What you got a final word on Roosters? Would you say disappointing, or would you say fair enough, or just don't worry, it's a trial game?
Yeah, a little bit scrappy. I would like to seen a little bit more out of their halves, but they did what they needed to do. Whenever they were sort of in trouble, they kicked away well enough and held Manly when they had to. I don't think they went anywhere near 100%. So it was, as you said, trial game, move on.
38-16, the Raiders over the Eels at Jubilee Stadium as well. We got to see I guess the Spruik Supercoach Cheapies in action, and they were fine against what's left of Para. What do you take from this one?
Interesting one for mine, because I thought it was, it seemed like it was pretty close for the first 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, physically they matched up pretty well, didn't they?
They did. Obviously, you're still missing. There's a fair chunk of size to come back through the middle for that Canberra Raiders side too. So, some pretty good signs if you're a Raiders fan, especially if you've been listening to the majority of people that are saying they expect them to fall off a fair bit from previous seasons. I thought, some of the outside backs had very good games. Savage wasn't outstanding, but did nothing wrong, I don't think, during the game. Went through and had a pretty good output. Schiller,
if he's going to be, I still think if he's going to be, he might get a game on the wing. He's on the wing again this year. Hopper Whitehead's at one, and this week as well. Yeah, I think he's got a bit to do. Especially, I can see Seb Chris being their fullback.
Yeah.
Yeah, ultimately.
Or Rapana, depending on what they want to do.
So there's two that are ahead of Savage.
Yeah.
Possibly two that are ahead of Stewart as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Schiller had a very good game, but you've got the likes, obviously, of, as you said, Chris and Tomoko to come back into this team.
But there is a centre spot up for grabs. I assume Rapano wants to be. Rapano, I think Bo's had a mission, wants to be on the wing. I think Chris will be fullback, and they're looking for a centre, and Kotrick was good actually. So you're sort of looking for half a spot, trying to grab one of those in. And Ethan Strange plays centre, doesn't he?
Ken, yeah.
Yeah, so he might be. Anyway, keep going.
But yeah, there's a lot of guys that'll come straight back into this team and take up some of these positions from the guys. Two halves did well enough, created opportunities.
I thought Weeks actually did well enough to say he'll be starting six. Given we've never seen him kick, he did some great support work, and couple of nice pinpoint bombs and no knocks at all.
Chase the ball around everywhere. Little bit on the smaller side, which, you know, when the big guys get hold of him, you might get ragdolled a little bit, but definitely did enough to put his name forward as the 6 outside Fogarty when he returns. Mariota, I thought, had a fantastic game. Probably didn't get as many raps as some people, but he just had his nose to the grindstone for every minute he was out there. Starling had an impact, very good impact with his running game when he did get out there. Probably shaded Wolford, to be honest.
After all the shit he's been through, I hope he has a good year.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Gula,
they had
they've
some
got
of
some
these
great middle forwards because Emery looked really fit. Like he looked impressive as well to me.
Well, pretty much any one of those big forwards that came on really had an impact running through the middle. Peter Holler was fantastic. Excuse me. Tateo did quite a good job. Noah Martin, I think it was the guy that was running around with that
with the mullet,
the big red
angry man,
the big red mullet, and he got quite fired up and really took the aggression to him as well. So they've got some depth there in that forward pack, which is something we've been a little bit worried about. Some of those big middles coming through. So
while we're on Canberra, what does it mean? Like, I guess they're the other addendum, given Canberra fans hate us, including Kim, who just wrote 25 cloud emojis. So thank you. Justin said Strange will play 6. Yeah, some negativity around our preview of the Raiders. Maybe rightfully so. What do you take?
Well, most supporters don't like it when you have a negative take on what their team's going to do for the season. But considering some of the names in this Parramatta backline, some of these no-name Canberra blokes made them look average at times, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
I was impressed with Schiller. I think if you take anyone out of this game, you got some pace, he's got some strength. 2 years ago, he was on the radar. Last year, not so much, but here he is. So wouldn't let anyone down, I don't think. And as I said, I think that you saw enough out of Weeks and Strange to an extent to say that they'll be in and around his team. 3 into 2 is interesting for the hookers, and I think Starling's going to be that 14. So where they go, who knows with Ricky?
Yep. Brendan Hands was close to probably Parramatta's best. I thought he was very good out of hooker.
Challange was pretty good, actually. Give him his merit there.
Yep. Harper did okay, considering coming into a new team. Wasn't the best out there, but I thought he did all right. So did Simonson. Probably one of the better performed outside backs.
Was one of the better ones. I agree.
Tuolagi.
Yeah, I just said that.
Pretty impressive, I thought, for Parramatta. But Maddo came on, did his job. A lot of this Parramatta team, I think, they didn't look like they were exerting themselves too much to try to score points. It looked more like they were just trying to set up to have a hit out, go through the motions, and work to certain parts of the field.
Yeah.
And there was there's zero creativity coming out of their halves once they did get into position. Which is not
there was
ideal,
no arse at all. Yeah, Arcee had a couple of, I guess, decent, kicks within goal and stuff, but there's nothing you sit here from Parramatta point of view and go, you can take anything out of this game, really.
Nah, not particularly.
Apart from, I guess, Simonson's, the first grader in that back line that gets his spot.
Would like to see Lane maybe poke his nose through a couple of times, but
and Ogden was okay doing what he had to do.
As I said, I think they used it more as a fitness brush up than anything the Parramatta side.
Yeah, I agree. Much else to take from this?
Canberra actually, they looked energetic and fast, which is something I couldn't have said about them a lot of times last year. The more of that grindstone type play last year, and they were pretty explosive at times in the middle of the field, and it's interesting to see what happens once we get to round 1.
Well, like I said, they've got good depth. I like what both their bench props did. Once you throw Tapane and Puppy back in, that all looks good. It's just, see what they bring round 1. they've got enough talent there. Or they come with the back five. I just don't know what that would be. So I won't comment anymore. Holler, 64. Tateo, 52 for the Raiders. And Schiller, 57. For those interested in the cheapies, 34 for Weeks, 42 for Strange. And not much going for Power, 48 for Harper, 53 Russell, 63 Ogden, 45 Tuolangi, which actually seems quite low. Rimuru Greg got a 50. We'll know more this week, I guess. Cool. All right. Charity Shield, 28-6. What the hell was this game, David? 28-6 Rabbitohs over the Dragons. Yes, Rabbitohs were short a few, but played their forward pack. Dragons rolled everyone out. Gosh darn, they're in for a tough year.
One thing I'll say is they did look a bit faster through the middle of the field than they have done recently, especially for that first probably half an hour. You had Sewer really charging onto the ball, followed by Laurie and DeBellin. And they did cause a few problems for Souths, had them on the back foot for, probably that first 15, 20 minutes of the game. Didn't provide a lot of options off the back of it, which was interesting considering, they did have their halves there, but they didn't seem to create a great deal outside of that. Jack Bird looked more like a second rower than a centre.
Made a couple of breaks, but yeah.
No, it's only a trial, but
do we need to get to the stage where the conversation needs to be had that Ben Hunt's a hooker?
Not in this team, he's not. But
no, but even
maybe
even last year, like he loves his crash plays and stuff, and I don't know. I know he kicked for the one half a try there and stuff, but carry on.
Yeah, the Dragons did keep Souths, on the back foot for a big part of that first half, but as soon as the second half started, it was a completely different game. Thought Arrow had a very strong showing. Really looked like someone who's going to probably move into that second row position with Keon on the other side.
And Sean Kepi actually, good. Yeah, no, he'll be fine.
Yeah, I was just about to mention Kepi, especially ball in hand. He's always had a little bit of an issue with his lateral movement in defence, but didn't get picked out too often. But yeah, I thought he had a very, very strong game, ball in hand. Murray just ran around and tackled everything for a while and then got taken off. Once the Dragons got turned inside out a couple of times, not long after second half, it didn't look like there was going to be any other way that this game was going to pan out, to me anyway.
Yeah. I have much more to add, to be honest. All the Dragons, all the South forwards, eventually once they got into work, were fine. Mawali came on and was fine. Stoller got through his work. Yeah. What'd you make of Elias?
Mamazoulis was good out of dummy half. My thoughts on Elias. I thought Hawkins was as good, if not, slightly better in the attacking setups anyway. Elias organised a bit better than Hawkins did, obviously, but I thought creativity seemed like there was more coming out of Hawkins than there was Elias.
Yeah. Supercoach. That's really good else to say. Supercoach. Ravalawa got 40 with his try. Mamazilla's 56. Kepi 45. Gray 53.
That's 47. One that we missed.
Yeah.
He was tremendous when he came on the field. Reminded me reminded me of Preston Campbell back in the day, just bouncing off people left, right, and centre. Pirouettes followed by cutout passes and dropping blokes off on the inside of his hip. He looked like an absolute live wire and created a lot of opportunities for Souths, especially with the ball in hand. He looked fantastic.
Braden Burns, 84, and nothing else worth mentioning for the Dragons.
Tallis Duncan threw one of the best passes of the night.
Yeah.
From the second row to hit the winger on the chest to put him over. as well as some really nice tough runs as well. So
He's a good player.
it
He
looks
needs to be
like
at
he's
17.
definitely firming for at least a bench spot, and we'll see how we go 6 weeks into the comp. But
Yeah, no, absolutely. Then we get to so for just final word of Rabbitohs, because there's someone that is always a premiership contender. Yeah,
you got half a side to come back in here. Realistically, I know that the forwards were pretty strong, but I can't see many guys in that back line. You got Johnson obviously, and probably Tass, but
well,
you got to remember you've got
this is what they got now, because Whiten's got 2 weeks. You got injuries, the rest of them.
yeah for the first week or two during the comp,
Yeah.
but for a big part of this season, you've got Walker, you've got Latrell coming back into this team, you've got old mate from the Raiders. Or why
Well,
am
he's
I
got 2
blanking on
weeks.
him right now? White coming in.
Yeah.
Like there's going to be a hell of a lot more strike in that back line come round 4 this year.
18-16, Tigers beat the Warriors over in Christchurch, 13,670 in attendance. Supercoach scores, we may as well just go straight to it, given they're in front of me. RTS 49, Montoya 47, Bunty FL 51, Ale 49, Ford 47, Laban 67. For the Tigers, Fatapi 44 with involvements. Appy got 42 in about 20 minutes, and Seyfarth 51 in about half hour. So tick tick for them. What did you make of this? What do you make of this?
Yeah, well, Seyfarth started on fire. He was looked like one of the best players out there for that first 15, 20 minutes. Just tackling anything that moved, and a couple of really nice hard charges through the middle. As you said, Appy was everywhere early, bringing his forwards onto the ball like the way we know he does. Very tough game for big part of this match. Didn't help that the Warriors went down to 12 for 60 minutes of the game. Old mate tried to take someone's head off.
Yeah,
but that might happen, sometime during the year as well. So I thought the Warriors were really tough. I thought that there was a point there with probably 20 minutes to go that I thought the Tigers looked like they were starting to get a little bit of dominance, and then they might just run away with the game. But it didn't happen. Didn't happen at all. They the difference Roger made in the back line, in defense as well, just as much as attack.
Isn't it amazing how the best player in the field can just stand out as the best player in the field? Like RTS came back, hadn't missed a beat, and just go, "There's Roger."
It's the way he's talking to people, like, he's telling his winger, "No, you stick out there," then, or he's dragging his blokes on his inside, or vice versa. And the way he stood up in front of a couple of these guys and just sort of danced in front of them before he brushed past them and then kept going was
Well, there must have been
tremendous.
3 or 4 times he was just dragged down at the last second when you thought, "Oh God, here we go."
Yeah, absolutely. Jacob Laban, for mine, was probably one of the breakout players. I don't think I've seen much of him before, but he was tremendous in this game.
Yep.
That line running on the edge was brilliant, and he's a big boy too. So still only 18. I'm pretty sure I heard about 25 times on the coverage. So he's got some more growing to do as well. Got a good palm, bit of footwork, and big body. So that's he's someone that could find his way into this team. Tom Ale had a fantastic game. For mine, I've been looking for him to do this for probably 3 years now. You've probably all heard me mention him during our shows for the last 3 or 4 years. But I thought he was close to their forward leader in this game. He really took it up to the Tigers in the middle of the field, and it's not a pack that can't go with him either. Bunty had a fantastic game as well, and those two are probably playing off for these bench spots that the Warriors are looking for down the track. No real sort of impact in the halves. I thought Metcalf did okay, but Chanel didn't really cover himself in a lot of glory in this game. Just
He was fine, but then he had a couple out in the full, and he just, first came back.
He seemed to be.
He's physical enough, but he was just there.
yeah, he just sort of catch and pass and just sort of followed, watch what was going on. Leotawa in the centres, Ali Leotawa, I thought he had a fantastic game as well. Big mobile. He's probably going to push Pompey and Rocco Berry for that other spot, I would imagine, at some point during this year because, I thought he looked quite good out there.
Yep. I just think from Warriors' point of view, they're a top 4 team. They just added Roger Tuivasa-Sheck back, and we've given a bit of blooding to some young guys here. You should rightfully be excited if you're a Warriors fan.
100%.
If Sean Johnson's legs stay attached, it's going to be a very, very good year. He's a takeaway. It looks. I know Tamari Martin played the other day. Metcalf named to start. Interested to see which way they go, but there's just no cracks in him. And like I said, you're putting a weapon back into a top 4 team. So you should be excited. Look, the negativity that there was 12 for now. There was 12 players and it was 2 points. As I said, the first 20 minutes. What excited me most about the Tigers was what Aiden Caesar brought. There's just some calmness. They got through their work. All Appy and Caesar both played about 20. I think it was late 20 minutes for the game. I thought Papai was good. I thought Clemmer was good. I thought Dr. Martin. Our front row dominated the first 20 minutes. Or the Tigers' front row dominated the first 20 minutes. And there was enough. And you got Kapara and Edrich. Obviously, Bateman will eventually be there. I thought there was enough from the forwards. You go for what they had to do. It was good. Caesar will bring a sense of calmness, which we've needed for 10 years. Sullivan was fine. His job's going to be to just make some shit up as he goes, and a bit of luck on a couple of short kicks might have come up with something. Not sure Junior Tupou will be in the team by the end of the year. Now he's off somewhere else. So, drop what he had a couple of sloppy drops, and you got someone like Alex Lobb who's 7 foot tall, and you got Fatape who produced a nice bit of play. I'm happy enough. We mentioned Seyfarth. I think even at 13, if he's going to be there, he's definitely worth looking at Supercoach. And Fainu got through a bunch of work off the bench, and Pole can be a good impact player.
I thought Sione probably shaded Pole, to be honest.
Yeah.
Sione Fainu, yeah. I thought he did a lot of good stuff on the edge there for the Tigers when he was on the field, and I thought he probably upstage Pole a little bit, so he might be one that also for a super coach, if he gets in there and gets himself 40, 50 minutes a game.
Probably looking out, they're probably both after the same spot.
Yeah, I would say so.
So, interesting. Yeah, I'm not going to spend too long on the Tigers. I'm happy enough as a long-suffering Tigers fan that this year won't be as bad, whatever that means. Warriors, big tick. Anything else?
Yeah, no, not realistically. I don't think the Tigers were probably put under as much pressure in the middle of the field as they could have been, which is
fair
obviously
enough.
something we'll look at down the track. But no, it's a pretty good hit out for both teams. And I think both teams would have taken a fair bit out of it, to be honest, because it was tough and gritty for a big part of it, and had to make decisions at the right time. And it was definitely a good hit out for the forwards, anyway.
Yeah. I'm going to be completely honest here, Barn. I haven't seen a great deal of these 2 Queensland games through the state I end up in after our draft and UFC Sunday afternoon. But 46-20, Cowboys, Broncos. Obviously, I've watched the Fox Mini and down, but we take pride in actually talking about what we took out of 80 minutes of footy, and you go a long way to see 2 blokes actually do watch a lot of every minute of every game over the weekend. But how much do you see of this, and what do you got to take from it?
I probably only saw about half of this game, to be honest. I saw sort of the 15 minutes at the start and half an hour in the second half. It was always going to be a pretty one-sided game. When you looked at the lists that were out there, the Broncos really went through the motions for mine. You saw the likes of, they'd have a big carry and then they'd just sort of jog into the line for the next 2 and then, try to beat someone on the outside. And it was more about sort of taking pot shots here and there, I thought, than really ramming home their advantage through the middle of the field. When they did have to, if it got a little bit, if the scorelines got a little bit closer than I think they thought they had to, they just put their foot on their gas for 1 or 2 sets and they just completely take over and score pretty much at will. So realistically could have been an absolute dominant shutout, but I think they were saving a little bit in the tank, to be honest.
Look, in terms of takeaways, I liked Adam Reynolds' connections with a lot of his back row. Actually, he looked really, really sharp. He was his short kicking game was good. Shocked me, but some of his work with Piakura and co was very good. Reece Walsh, 111 Supercoach points, but had his traditional. Actually, he had that spurt just after halftime where he was brilliant. 40-20 kick into a back of whatever 2 try assists and a try, and off we go. Like an absolute freak. You're happy with him, Selwyn Cobbo. The support play and attacking wise is very good, and Piakura filling the hole. I think they'll be fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Madden played big minutes in the half position, and he did it pretty well. We've seen out of him since he's been up at the Broncos. He generally, when he does come in, does a pretty good job there. Cobbo, 1 or 2 times he looked a little bit unsure of what was going on in defence in the centres, but attacking wise, he's always a threat anytime the ball goes anywhere near him. All their big names, they just sort of gave them a jog through realistically, especially in the forwards there. Apart from Piakura, who they really lent on, and I think they went out of their way to make sure that he was going to make sure did plenty of work and had to lead this pack when the other guys went off, and he did a fantastic job. He just did nothing but shore up, looking like he's going to move into that second row position, even though he does have a little bit of competition with Willison. Obviously, the experience there, I would suggest, has Paliasia
who
in
starts
front.
prop? Doesn't Willison start prop?
You think so? Maybe.
Who's up the sleeve? Jensen? You can tell me I'm missing someone obvious. Baker. Willison will be better. Baker.
Baker. Not off the top of my head. There's someone we've missed, 100%.
There'll be some people shouting us in the comments. Do so. Shout at us. Absolutely. That's fine. Haas, Hunt, Piakura. Oh, Jensen and Haas started here. I don't think so. I think Willison comes back and starts prop. Kobe Hetherington to be on the bench. Tapau. Spoilt for choice.
Yeah, they're not going backwards anytime soon. They're going to be a threat every weekend against every team they play, and unless something dramatic goes wrong.
Cowboys, anything from them? I said I feel like I'd be lying if I made anything up here because I couldn't pay a lot of attention to them. The state I was in.
Yeah, no. The one that I was probably paying more attention to than anyone else was Finiaki, and he did have a very good outing. Proved that he can move into that position. Thomas McKaylee had a game that he hasn't played for a long time.
My old mate.
He actually had a very good outing in this one as well.
Had the halves
more around some of the forwards than anything else, because the rest of the side was a whole heap of people that I've never seen, let alone heard of. Well, sorry, the other way around.
Yeah.
Never heard of, let alone seen before. So
fair enough. As I said,
they were well and truly outclassed, and they did their best at times. They created a couple of opportunities, but you're not going to see 95% of these guys anywhere near the first grade side, I would imagine. So
Selwyn Cobbo 67 points, Walsh 111, Piakura 75, Big B Takura 51, Tristan Saylor actually 52. But gosh darn, he's a player,
isn't he?
Player, just come on and just make shit happen. Fanuiki 63, Milani 60, Valame 49 with a couple of intercepts, and McKaylee 56 as mentioned. Let's wrap up with not a lot we can really take out of that, is there?
No, you want to see the Cowboys this week when they're running out there close to full squad.
And we wrapped up with the Dolphins 26 over the Titans. This is another one. I know, people might be happy to whip through it, but this is Titans reserve grade against the Dolphins. They rolled out Tessinu, Farnworth and co. And they look good enough. Maybe, again, not quite as dominant as you want, but there was enough in and about this game that you should be happy. Barn, what do you think?
Yeah, relied a bit more on sort of one-on-one breaks in play. The likes of obviously Flegler. Bostock had a decent outing out there.
I think
on the wing.
he's on. I think he'll be playing. I think you'll get him round one if you want him.
Yep. Not a huge amount of time for most of their forwards. It was more of sort of a warm-up. Gilbert was good in the, I think he played half an hour, about thereabouts. Lemuelu played just exactly what we've seen from him previous time, and looks like he might be a bit hard done by being back on the bench coming into this season. And Wallace had a game. Wallace was very strong for the Dolphins in the middle of the field. I was impressed with the Titans defense.
Just a clever front rower, Wallace. Like he can pick and choose his spots very well in back end of games where he'll come off the bench and he'll just go, right, I'm just going to line you up and I'm going to run over you.
Run some very good attacking angles, and it hits the inside or outside shoulder of his opposition, and generally gets half his body through, and then he's got a good offload in him as well if he can, if he's in the position to do it. I was if I was a Titans fan, I'd be pretty happy with their defense, to be honest. From a bunch of kids, their commitment and effort that they put in for a large part of this game to keep this as close as they did. They really worked hard for a big chunk of this game.
And that's all. If they can do that, the Titans become, as we said, 26 points is enough. If you can trust a team to defend 26, you're in the game, aren't you?
Yeah, that's right. Young fella they played at lock, Arama Hayo, big body, looked like someone who'll handle first grade pretty well. Coming in there, wasn't really, nobody else really stood out so much. We've seen Isaac Malawi before, and he did a decent job as well, but they were on the back foot for the entirety of this game, and the fact that they were able to snag a couple of tries to keep the score as close as they did, I think they did better than to be expected. So,
is that and Herbie's Herbie? What do you make of the Dolphins halves?
It just seemed to be going through the motions, to be honest. They didn't really ever seem to put their foot to the floor and try to pull the game apart. Katoa again really seemed to be looked a little bit out of his depth again. Looks quite happy to let everybody else take control and just sort of sit back and hopefully, grab a ball when he's half in space or something like that. But
it's a big year for him because we know what Nicarima brings to this team, and I don't think you can carry him for too long.
He really needs to start trying to stamp his presence on the game a little bit, whether it's to add a little bit more running or try to really take control of that left-hand side of the field.
And that's the thing. With these younger, he's now in his third year of first grade. With these younger players, you either go, you have the 5'8" that are just full of flair and need to tone down, or you have your Sean O'Sullivans and co who they are, the game controllers. He doesn't quite fit either.
No, he does have some skill and flair in him. Like we saw at different parts during the year where he'd get real excited and get up and going and start running into the line and throwing some passes. But when they're sort of 50-50 hit and miss, that doesn't help what you're doing, what you're trying to do. So
you just love a foot in the throat at some point, wouldn't you? Just to it's okay. Yeah. Here he is. This is him. He needs a highlight reel.
Yeah, absolutely. Like he's got a little bit of a kicking game, and he does have some nice touches in him, but does seem to not get involved as much as you'd like to see out of him.
Avarillo, much from him?
To be honest, this is one I probably watched less than any other game.
Again, as I said, mate, I'm in a bloody cricket grand final at the moment. We'll put a hand up and say we didn't see enough of it to really stamp it. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, what I did see was most of the time when I was watching in 10-minute spurts, the Titans were on the back foot and having to scramble, and they were they put in a lot of effort to keep it as close as they did.
Something else we'll bring in here. So we'll wrap up in a sec. Something else we'll bring in for maybe this year. You might hate this idea, but at least for now, is we'll do some buys and sells. So after the first round of trials, is there a team you want to go and get some stocks in, having set out for the year? And is there a team you're like, so I'll sell that, or a player, or a fucking commentator? Haven't listened to Dan Ganane again, or anyone else that you never buy and sell on, or
the Warriors with the stocks that were missing for mine, I thought that was quite a good performance, being a player short for 60 minutes. And that just shows me that all those sort of bit parts are willing to work for the cause, and they looked very organised and they knew what the game plan was. So going forward, throwing the rest of those guys in there. Probably speculating, I'd probably buy couple of doggy stocks as well, to be honest. It was their attack looked a lot better than I thought it was ever going to. They did play a bit of that high rolling sort of pass, touch footy type footy at times, but it worked. And they did have a lot more strength through the middle of the field than I thought that they would have done previously. A lot of these teams didn't have the squads out there that
so we're all reading too much into something that means nothing, aren't we?
buy or sell many stocks.
I think if I'm going to buy, and I don't, I sort of agree, and we might never speak of this again once we talk off air. It's just not your head, but I think you've nailed the two Bulldogs from where we had them ranked. I'm interested now, not so much from a win the comp point of view, but maybe a top 12 point of view. So you got to buy some stocks there. And the Warriors, I think you've done well. I don't have any in the first place, but I think if I'm selling, I'm selling Dragon shares. If I
never had any. I didn't buy any Dragon shares to begin with. So.
No, they're too cheap. So but it's something we might just think about every week. Maybe a player, maybe a coach, maybe a commentator, maybe
proper. It'll be much easier to pinpoint this kind of stuff.
And something to open debating with every week, a buy and a sell. I think might be interesting. Now, do you want to have a look at this week's teams very quickly?
Sure.
Or anything else you want to discuss before we get through it?
No. Did you have any more? Was there any more feedback from?
Yeah. Well, let's have a look at this. Yeah, absolutely. Luke Thompson, 2024 Dogs for the Flag. Thanks, Luke. Enjoy your career in Super League. Matt Sykes, really solid informed analysis. Good blokes, make it easy listening from a recent subscriber. Thank you, Matty.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Agree, they've got their feet in the ground sometimes. Pompey and Martin will not be in the first run-on squad, and if they are, I'll eat my hat. I'll also have a few dollars on it if there's any takers. That's from Mike. Pompey won't, but Martin surely will. And this is all in relation to our pre-season preview. Ultra Vez said, Parramatta has the best set of juniors coming through for many years. They said Strange just number 6. There was a bunch of others. Oh, and Old Mate Queenslander, our man, went and commented on every single post. So God bless him. Good man, Queenslander. If you're around for Magic Round, reach out and we'll have a beer. Maybe at Lord Alfred when we're, doing a show there. There's a few others, but there's anything else really interesting. Bits and pieces and tell us we're all fuckwits. That's fine. We're allowed. Anything in reply to all of that?
There wasn't much there worth replying on.
I
appreciate the kind words there. I think that was on the back of our Warriors chat, I think. So, again, when you say nice things about people's teams, they generally respond pretty nicely. So.
Hey, and we're buying stocks.
Yeah.
All right. Just a quick read. So generally, if it's your first time around, again, we'll do a standalone preview show. So we're going to try, hopefully, all things permitting, bar, we're going to do review shows Monday nights, previews Wednesdays. That sound fair?
Yep.
At least for YouTube consistency. And thanks to everyone even that hasn't commented, but also subscribed. Great turnout in the last few weeks. Leave us feedback. Leave us some links. Join more importantly, the Lifeline Supercoach comp, but also our Supercoach group, which I would love to give the code for, but I don't have in front of me. It'll be up on socials. This week, though, just quickly ripping through teams and some team news. The Bunnies and Roosters play. Obviously, they're off to Vegas. It's 2 reserve grade teams. The only thing even worse mentioning is Yelene Gordon's going to play, who last played, I think, in 2011. He's playing front row for the Bunnies. Sharks and Bulldogs.
Dylan Napa gets a start,
and Dylan Napa's going to get a game. The Sharks, they've named essentially what I would say would be their full strength team. Kafusi in the front row. They're Kafusi. So Kennedy, Katoa, Ramey, and Talakai, Mulatalo, Trendle, Hines. Kafusi starting prop. Brayley, Hunt, Nikora, Wilton, McGuinness. Still no Finucane. Still no.
I mean,
ULA. The rest of Hiroti's on the bench. The rest of the guys are on the bench. Rudolph, Hazelton, Calhoun, Williams, the bench there. Any thoughts on that, Barn, as a Sharkies fan?
Yeah, no, as you said, it's pretty close to the run-on side that you'd expect in round one. Hamlin Uele probably come in, push Kafusi back to the bench, and then another bench spot will be probably taken up by Finucane. So there's 2 guys there on the bench that we'll need to worry about come round one.
Do you reckon he becomes a benchy, or do you reckon he comes back into the front row?
Who's that?
Finucane.
I think Uele comes back into the front row. Okay. They might start Finucane in the front row as well, push Hunt back to the bench, but...
Fair enough. No, just this is all speculation. Doggies, Blake Taff has kept the 1. Stephen Crichton will be playing. He'll be playing at 4. Adokar at 5. Burton, Hutchinson. Bronson Cherry's retained his spot. Bulldogs front row is Max King and Famuasili. Kickow is playing. Preston, Jamin Salmon starts at lock. Hughes on the bench. Curran on the bench. Moran on the bench. Kurt and Mann. On the extended bench, not a bunch of other thirds. Biondi Toby Sexton's on the extended bench and Skelton as well. I reckon this is pretty close to what we're going to see round 1 for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, this is pretty much exactly it, I think. Can't see much else changing.
Where's Connor Tracy injured?
No, I don't think so.
No Connor Tracy. Okay. Fair enough.
Not that I know
of. No Carraz.
No Carraz, yeah. So
no Carraz.
I would expect him to start somewhere.
He'd be on the other wing, surely. That said, I'm a big fan of Blake Wilson. So that's interesting. So it looks like, as suggested earlier, that sweep play into Crichton now sort of excites me a little bit. And if Crichton's a goal kicker as well, I'll give it some thought. Bulldogs, I know the Bulldogs fans hate us, but a little bit interested to see how they go.
This will be a good test in the middle for both teams, I think.
Well, it's a proper test because there are 2 teams. Literally, say about him is where's their middle.
They're missing a front rower or 2. I think this will be a really good test. Even on the edges as well, you got Preston and Kickow up against Nakora and Wilton, and Wilton had a bit of a shocker on the weekend, so there could be some issues there. Might even be a little bit closer than the odds are suggesting, to be honest, just coming off what the Bulldogs did present with last week.
What are the odds?
The big question marks are obviously going to be around the halves and what kind of continuity you can get out of Burton and Hutchinson and the way that they're going to set up with their attack. So big watch on this game, I think.
You also get your man Bubba back, so you'll be happy.
Exactly. With and obviously Trindle, how he's going to set up and how he's going to fit into this. I don't think that the Sharks' attack will change a great deal, but you might see a little bit more digging into the line and a few more kicks in behind on that left edge than what you saw with Moylan there. So
Saturday kicks off at 1:45 with Melbourne and the Knights. Pappy starts. We get Warbrick back. Meany's back as well in the centres. Storm essentially naming a full-strength team except for Munster as well. Harry Grant run onside it and Christian Walsh. No Munster on the extended bench, so keeping the big gun on ice. Ponga's going to have a run. Tuala does get that extra wing spot. Gagai, Best, Marzu, Gamble, Hastings, Crossland with the Brayley injury is going to be there. Dylan Lucas is in a starting side, but Kai Pearce-Paul is coming back from a surgery. And Cogger at 14. What do you think about this one?
Another really tough matchup. Like these, the more I see these full team lists that going into round one, these teams are a lot closer than previously expected.
Isn't
To
it?
be honest,
This year should be a fantastic comp.
Yeah, it's just looking like it's going to be as close as ever coming into this one. Big watch on Kai Pearce-Paul, obviously. Yet to be seen in the NRL. I think he'll be out to make a name for himself here. Bench rotation, Knights have probably got a little bit of an edge there. Big question marks around the 6 and 7 and how when they decide to inject Cogger into this game and what happens there. You got Ponga back at fullback as well with Pappenhausen, so that's going to be the matchup. I think whoever's got the biggest involvement in the attacks there is probably going to come out on top with these two fullbacks.
Absolutely. Warriors Dolphins from Go Media Stadium at 3:45 on the Saturday. As we mentioned earlier, Tua Peaky is going to be the fullback. Dallin's back. Have a run. Berry, RTS, Montoya, Metcalf, Johnson, Fanua Blake, Barnett, Egan. Again, pretty much full strength, I would suggest, this Warriors team. Capel debuts, Tohu's back at lock, Lusick, Niokore, Tavunga, Afoa. And the Dolphins, Hammer, Izako, New, Farmworth, Bostock, Katoa Sullivan, the Bromwich boys, Flegler. Oh, no boys, just Jesse. Flegler, Kafusi, Aitken, Gilbert. The bench is Nichols, Taware of Avarillo, Donny, which is quite thin. The rest of them the rest of all the regular forwards are on the extended bench. They'll have a run, but probably not far off their expected backlines here either. I'm very interested to see this. I would almost suggest that's the Warriors' top team in front of us there, depending whether they go Dylan Walker or Freddie Lussick. But yeah,
And
interesting to see.
yeah, probably a little bit of size to be introduced into the Dolphins bench there. I'm not sure they play both Avarillo and Donahue coming into the
Well, they'll just
the
rotate
season
as they
proper.
rotate, don't they?
But,
Yeah. Not with Wally. Not with Waller, Kenny Bromwich, Ray Stone on the bench. That won't be happening. Then will
big test for the halves for the Dolphins. Obviously,
Oren Keeley was pretty good.
I thought, yeah,
but we didn't mention him, but he's in around the squad. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, big test here for the the forward pack as well for the Dolphins. It's going to be coming up against one of the better packs that we saw last year. You really test out Flegler and Gilbert and Aitken, I would imagine. But yeah, O'Sullivan and Katoa really need to show how they're going to provide some opportunities for some of these talented outside backs for the Dolphins. Could get ugly if the Warriors really start to dominate that middle.
It's 5 to 6 on Saturday afternoon. Seagulls host the Broncos. Both these teams are currently on the way to LA, so we don't need to spend much time on this. Brad Parker's starting 11, as we mentioned earlier. Blake Moses is playing. Kurt Falls playing halfback. We'll move on. Not much to take from that. The Dragons host the Tigers at 8 o'clock Saturday evening, in the middle of my semi-final, but I might sneak this game into the pub. I would suggest pretty much both teams are going to be what we're going to get in the comp here. I don't know about the interchange for the Dragons, but definitely the starting lineup. We got Tuipulotu and Faino up their sleeve on the bench. For the Tigers, I suggest the only difference we get to see Justin Olam, we get to see Stafford Toa, Sullivan and Caesar both in the halves. Seyfarth keeps that lock spot. Lockie Gavin 14, which is now in the first game, and I suggest could well be their utility this year. Twile comes back. Pole Fainu. Interesting. As a Tigers fan, I would hope Tigers win this and win this well, because otherwise look like a fuckwit. But what are you thinking, Bum?
Yeah, this is a game that I think they really do have to stamp themselves as an improver on the year, because if they come out and just have a muddling win or even a defeat against the Dragons here, it won't look great going into the season proper.
I could almost suggest, given Flanagan's come back too, like they're two first-time coaches, doing this, I could almost see this being like a proper first grade. They'll both be trying to win this game.
You would imagine so, yeah. I can see both of these forward packs probably playing pretty long minutes to try and set up that middle of the field, because there's question marks around the combinations with the 6 and the 7 from both sides. So that's probably your biggest watch out of this game for the weekend, I would imagine. There's seeing what kind of combinations can be struck up between the 6 and the 7 for both of those sides, and how they inject their ones and their centers. So
Yeah. Whatever that means for those that are fans of watching, teams 12 through 14. 3 o'clock at Queanbeyan, Seyfarth Oval. Raiders host the Cowboys, who the Raiders have named Hopawade at 1, Asuamua on the wing, Tomoko and Schiller in the centre, Savage in the wing. Same halves as last week, Weeks and Strange. Josh Puppy has a run. Levi starts. Gula starts. Hudson Young, Whitehead, Smithies, the starting forward pack. Tom Starling, Kotrick, Trey Mooney, Jed Stewart on the bench. The rest of them are up their sleeves. Zach Hoskins on an extended bench, which we'll watch for. I suggest this will be close to, once Tarpanay's back, close to their starting forward pack. And I guess we'll see what we get from the rest. For the Cowboys, that's full strength. Backline, Drinkwater, Felt, Holmes, Laybutt, Tuolangi, Dearden, Townsend, McLean, Robson, Tomalolo, Lukey, Nanai, Cotter, Granville, Neem, Hess, McIntyre, Tom Chester on extended bench, Fianuki on extended bench, Valaman extended bench. But I suggest that would be their full strength team. You would want to see something out of the Cowboys this week, wouldn't you, Bun?
yeah, I'd like to see Finny Fuiaki in the 17, to be honest, but maybe not. Yeah, really would expect the Cowboys to come out here and try to sort of make a statement, especially with the big guys in the back row. They'd be itching for a game, I would imagine, and they can take a game away from people. Tamalolo in the front row is interesting, but probably not before time. Probably where we're going to see him for the rest of
That's where he's going to live his life now.
next few years, I would imagine. Yeah, there's some strike in the back line there for the Cowboys, and I'd be surprised if they don't put
I think
probably
I'd
2 or
want to
3
put a
try
score
gap on the Raiders.
Yeah. Not much to add. Looking for. Yeah. End of the day, Cowboys should be a team we all want to watch play. So I hope they get it right. And we're going to wrap up with the Titans and Para. Desi's finally taken the cling wrap off the team and named a proper team here. Keeney at 1, AJ at 4. Usual suspects in between. Fodawaker, Paliasia, the starting front row, which means Tino at 13, which, if only we'd been around. Jacob Alec and Bo Fermor back at 12. Looking forward to seeing this, actually. Randall Jolliffe, Clark Haas. As you said, if they can get their attitude right, this is a proper football team. Parramatta is exactly Parramatta. I reckon that's full strength power, except Madison on the extended bench. Everything else is what you would have seen for the last couple of years. Joey Lussick is the starting 9, and they are starting at hands at 14, despite the fact it's a trial game, but Bear is on record as saying he'd prefer just one hooker. Tuolangi's in the 17 as his Joffa. Good game.
Yeah, I think he gave Hands a pretty good showing last week, so he's probably just given Joey Lussick the right of reply in this one. This is probably a perfect game for both these teams, realistically.
You're going to have space and time. You're going to be able to throw the ball around. You're going to have
forwards
to defend.
To have a stretch out and, up against some good, strong opposition. And then, a very good chance once the ball gets outside of those big fellas in the middle to run some shapes at some indifferent defence at times. Obviously, we haven't seen a lot of AJ defending out in the centres, but rest of these guys have been exposed at times. The likes of Kelly and Sammy and Sivo turning around to collect balls, and Simpson and Penasini sometimes get a bit ahead of the play and can be broken open. So I'd expect this one to be a real tough dour affair for probably half an hour, and then you might see some footy being thrown around in the outside backs.
If you're a Parramatta fan, you want to see Moses, Brown, and Gutho all involved, don't you?
Oh, 100%. You want them running the show, and you want them to really, if they do get a chance to maybe take a lead, really put the foot on the throat and try to put this game away before they're taken off and given the last 20 minutes to rest.
Exactly right. Dare I ask you, Bart, has anything got you frothing?
Obviously, I want to see my Sharks boys. This forward battle here is actually one that really gets me pretty excited, to be honest. And
This Titan ones or the Sharks one?
no, this Titans and Eels.
Yeah,
I think that's going to be
cracking
a
game. That should be very good.
fantastic forward battle.
Yeah.
That'll go on for at least a good half an hour, and you'll see some tremendous footy played in the middle of the field. And the Warriors and Dolphins, I think that's another one that they line up quite good there in the middle of the field with some question marks around, obviously, Flegler coming into a new side and Tom Gilbert coming back from injury. But I think they line up really well, and you're going to see another top-class forward battle. May not be for, the entirety of the game because we're still in trial mode, but I think you're going to see a good half an hour of some big forwards slogging it out in the middle of the field.
I'm really excited to see that. Yeah, I agree. I'm really excited to see that 6 o'clock Sunday game, the Para Titans, because it's always a lot of fun. I'm really excited to see the Storm and the Knights. I think that'll be a lot of fun too, just to see where they're all lining up. And obviously, I really hope that the Tigers can, beat the Dragons, but it's no different to having an egg in my face the last 5 years. Anything else you want to finish on, Barn? And otherwise, you should get out of here, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. Time for bed, I think. Nothing from me, mate.
All right, buddy. Thank you. You can find us on all the socials. You can leave us some feedback below. We will go and we'll do this all again this time next week. We will come back and review all the trials, and then we've got that weird ass thing where we have to preview 2 games.
How it's going to be strange, isn't it?
I don't know. I think how we can do it. We might tack it on at the end of next week's review. We'll see how this
We
all
brushed
goes.
over a few games this week. That probably won't be happening next week with most teams putting out some pretty strong lineups. So
yeah, if you've
might
made
be a little bit more in-depth analysis on
2 hours into this, trust
trials.
me, generally we'll talk more about everyone's team than just the ones that tickle our fancy. But thank you, mate. Go and get some sleep. You got an early start as always. Leave us some feedback, do all the good stuff, and we will talk soon. See you guys.